This first video was captured on a doorbell security camera in Houston, Texas. It was just after 9 p.m. when a teenage girl can be seen walking down the sidewalk toward her home after getting off the school bus from a late practice. The street looks completely normal. A few parked cars. A quiet neighborhood. Nothing unusual. But then something strange happens. A dark SUV slowly turns the corner and begins creeping down the street behind her. At first, it doesn't seem suspicious. But the car doesn't pass her. Instead, it slows down. Then suddenly the back door of the SUV swings open. Two men jump out and rush toward the girl. Within seconds, they grab her and try to drag her toward the vehicle. The girl immediately starts fighting back. She kicks one of the attackers and manages to break free for just a moment. Then she sprints toward the nearest house. That house just happened to be the one with the doorbell camera recording everything. You can actually hear the panic in her voice as she screams, "Help! Help! Please!" The attackers chase her up the driveway. But the moment she reaches the front door, she begins violently banging on it. Inside the house, the homeowner hears the noise and opens the door. The attackers instantly realize they've lost their opportunity. They run back to the SUV and speed away. Police would later review the doorbell footage and begin searching for the vehicle. A few days later, the suspects were arrested after the car was spotted in a nearby town. Investigators later said that the girl surviving the kidnapping attempt came down to one critical decision. Instead of freezing, she ran directly toward the nearest house. And that single decision likely saved her life. The next case was caught on CCTV cameras in a parking garage in Brazil. A woman named Carla had just finished work and was walking to her car late at night. The garage was mostly empty, and the echo of her footsteps bounced off the concrete walls. As she reached her vehicle and unlocked the door, something moved in the background. A man had been hiding behind a pillar. He suddenly rushed toward her. Before she could even react, he grabbed her arm and tried to force her into the back seat of her own car. But Carla didn't cooperate. Instead of complying, she did something unexpected. She slammed the car door shut and dropped her keys underneath the vehicle. The attacker became confused for a moment. He bent down to try and grab the keys. But that brief distraction gave Carla the chance she needed. She ran. CCTV footage shows her sprinting through the garage screaming for help. At the same moment, a security guard sitting at the garage entrance heard the noise. He rushed toward the sound. The attacker, realizing someone was coming, ran back toward the stairs and disappeared. Police later reviewed the footage and eventually identified the suspect. He had previously been arrested for attempted kidnapping. Investigators later said Carla's instinct to create a distraction and run immediately prevented her from being forced into the car. Because once victims are moved to a second location, the chances of survival drop dramatically. This next video was captured on a gas station surveillance camera in Arizona. A young man named Daniel had pulled over to get fuel late at night during a long drive. The station appeared empty. Just one other car parked near the pumps. Daniel steps out of his vehicle and begins filling the tank. But behind him, the driver of the other car quietly gets out. At first, the man pretends to be using the pump. But then he slowly begins walking toward Daniel. You can see him reach into his jacket. When he gets close enough, he pulls out a handgun. Daniel freezes. The attacker demands that Daniel get into the back seat of the car. At this point, most people might assume the robbery is about money. But Daniel later said something about the man felt wrong. The attacker kept insisting that Daniel get inside the vehicle, not just hand over his wallet. That's when Daniel made a risky decision. Instead of complying, he suddenly threw the gas pump nozzle toward the attacker. Gasoline splashed across the ground. Startled, the attacker stepped back. Daniel immediately jumped into the driver's seat of his car and slammed the door. Within seconds, he sped out of the station. The attacker tried to chase him, but it was already too late. Daniel drove straight to the nearest police station. When officers reviewed the footage, they believed the attacker likely intended to abduct him. The suspect was later arrested weeks later in connection with another violent crime. Police said Daniel surviving the encounter came down to one thing. He realized the situation wasn't a normal robbery, and he acted before it was too late. The fourth incident was captured on a street security camera in Eastern Europe. It was early morning. A man named Victor was walking to work along a quiet industrial road. The streets were empty. Factories on both sides of the road. No pedestrians. No traffic. Then suddenly a white van pulls up beside him. The sliding door opens. Two men jump out. Before Victor can react, they grab him and attempt to force him inside the van. But Victor fights back. Security footage shows him grabbing the edge of the van door and refusing to let go. The attackers try to shove him inside, but Victor keeps resisting. Then something unexpected happens. As the struggle continues, another vehicle appears in the distance. A delivery truck is approaching down the road. The kidnappers see the truck getting closer. Panic sets in. They shove Victor to the ground and quickly jump back into the van. Within seconds, the vehicle speeds away. The delivery truck pulls up moments later. The driver jumps out and helps Victor back to his feet. Police were called immediately. Investigators later used nearby cameras to track the van's route through the city. The suspects were eventually arrested several days later. Authorities later said Victor's refusal to stop resisting was likely the reason he survived, because the attackers were trying to complete the kidnapping before anyone else arrived. And the longer Victor resisted, the more attention the attack attracted, which forced the kidnappers to abandon their plan. The final case was captured on a dashcam in Chicago. It was just after midnight. A rideshare driver named Marcus was waiting at a red light downtown. A passenger had just entered his car minutes earlier. At first, everything seemed normal. The passenger sat quietly in the back seat. But when the car stopped at the intersection, the man suddenly leaned forward and placed a knife against Marcus's neck. "Keep driving," the passenger said. "Don't stop." Marcus immediately realized this wasn't a robbery. The man kept giving directions. He told Marcus to drive toward a quiet area of the city. But something else happened at that exact moment. A police cruiser pulled up behind them at the red light. You can actually see the flashing lights reflecting in the dashcam footage. Marcus realized this might be his only chance. Instead of driving normally when the light turned green, he slammed on the brakes. Hard. The sudden stop startled the attacker. The knife slipped away from Marcus's neck, and Marcus immediately threw open his car door and ran. The police officer behind them noticed the chaos and rushed over. The attacker tried to flee but was quickly arrested. Police later confirmed the suspect had an extensive criminal history. Investigators believed Marcus was being forced to drive somewhere secluded. But because he acted quickly while police were nearby, the situation ended before the attacker could carry out whatever plan he had. Kidnapping attempts like these happen more often than people realize. And while every situation is different, experts say there are a few common patterns in cases where victims survive. Most survivors do not comply quietly. They resist. They make noise. They attract attention. And most importantly, they act quickly. Because in many kidnapping cases, the first few moments are the only chance a victim has to escape. Once someone is forced into a vehicle or taken to another location, the odds of survival drop dramatically. But in these 5 terrifying encounters caught on camera, each victim made a decision that changed everything. And because of those decisions, they lived to tell the story. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more true crime survival stories caught on camera, make sure you subscribe. Because some of the most disturbing survival stories ever recorded are the ones that were never supposed to be captured at all.